You're listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. The show that gives pastors and church leaders the clarity they need to protect their people, property, and ministry.
Welcome back to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. I'm your host, Ron Wadley, with Insurance for Texans. We help pastors and church leaders protect their churches with clarity and confidence. We are wrapping up our series on liability coverages for Texas churches. Today, we will focus on directors and officers insurance. Larry sat in a finance committee meeting staring at a set of numbers that didn't make sense. Something in the monthly statements was off, way off. What looked like a simple accounting error suddenly pointed to a deeper problem, and no one in the room knew whether it was an honest mistake or something more serious. The leadership team eventually uncovered the issue, and fortunately, it turned out to be human error by an employee. But as the investigation unfolded, rumors started circulating among church members. A few even hinted at potential legal action. That's when the volunteers on the finance team began to squirm and worry about what could have happened if the congregation had accused them of wrongdoing. Would their own personal financial security be at risk if there was a lawsuit? By the time a church is facing accusations, it's too late to start thinking about directors and officers insurance. Let's talk a little bit about what directors and officers coverage actually is and how it protects certain members of the church's leadership. This type of policy covers leadership decisions made on behalf of the church by elders, deacons, finance teams, trustees, and board members. It also provides coverage for non-staff volunteers making fiduciary decisions. If someone in the church alleges wrongful acts, mismanagement, negligence, or poor stewardship against these leaders, a D&O policy steps in to pay for legal defense, cover settlements or judgments, and protect personal assets of the leaders involved. Even when decisions are made with good intentions, volunteer leaders can be held responsible for the outcome. And without D&O coverage, their personal finances could be at risk. Your volunteer leaders deserve this kind of protection. D&O coverage matters for Texas churches because they face specific risks that other businesses do not. A few examples of risks include a financial decision that unintentionally harms the church, mishandling of donations or designated funds, internal disputes among members and claims of misrepresentation or failure to disclose. It also protects from accusations of poor oversight or governance and volunteers making decisions without formal training. Even if the church promises to indemnify its leaders, that still puts the church's own budget on the hook, and lawsuits aren't cheap. D&O coverage shifts that burden off both the leader and the ministry. Every board member or church officer carries a fiduciary duty, meaning they must act in the best interest of the church at all times. But here's the reality. Most church volunteers aren't trained financial experts. They're dedicated servants doing their absolute best. D&O insurance recognizes that tension. It protects volunteers when decisions go sideways, even if they never intended harm. When reviewing or securing D&O coverage, church leaders should look for clear coverage for volunteers and committee members, adequate policy limits and not just the bare minimum, coverage for legal defense outside the limit if available, retroactive coverage for prior actions, and protection for fiduciary responsibilities. Many churches assume their general liability policy covers leadership decisions, but it does not. At Insurance for Texans, we guide churches through these nuances every day. Through our True Texas Church Insurance Program, we help congregations secure D&O coverage that fits their ministry, their structure, and the decisions their volunteers are responsible for. After speaking with our church insurance specialist, Larry's team walked away with clarity, proper coverage, and the peace that comes from knowing they were protected. Your church deserves the same confidence. Visit insurancefortexans.com to connect with our church insurance team and make sure your volunteer leaders are protected while they serve. And don't forget to grab your copy of our book, The Promise of Certainty, at thepromiseofcertainty.com. I'm Ron Wadley, and this has been Faith Stewardship and Insurance, protecting Texas churches. Until next time, remember, leaders carry responsibility, and stewardship means protecting them well.
Thanks for listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance. Until next time, remember, insurance isn't just about policies. It's about safeguarding the mission God has called you to lead.